All right, welcome to the BFR Podcast presented by Sports Mockery. My name's Dave. You can follow me on Twitter at Dave_BFR. I'm joined by my co-host Ficky. You can follow him on Twitter at It's Ficky Baby. Unbelievably, we are in our final preseason preview. Bears versus Bills starts tomorrow at noon. We're going to go ahead and just kind of preview it, talk about the position battles, talk about Justin Fields, how much we want him to play. We have Jacob Infante from the Windy City Gridiron who's going to be joining us, just talking ball. And there's a lot of news. Before Jacob gets in here and before we hop into the Bears versus Bills preview, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about some breaking news. If you're not on Twitter, if you don't have ESPN or Bleacher Report or whatever, Trey Lance was traded to the Dallas Cowboys, which is honestly surprising within itself. The fact he was traded, we all kind of had a feeling that was coming. But now that it's happened and it's to the Cowboys, Ficky, how do you feel about it, man?
I mean, like you said, we knew a trade was bound to happen. You can't be QB3, you're not going to be QB3 and either be on a team. They're probably going to take two. So going to the Cowboys, though, is weird because they already have a QB2 and obviously Dak. So it's you're QB3. So, what I think they're really doing is what he should have gotten San Fran. They're we basically gave up a lottery for you. Fourth isn't that bad, right? And we're going to actually develop you. Get you some snaps and try to see if we can get something out of you. Because the man's only played, in 3 years, 400 snaps or something like that. That is crazy. I'm not even upset that he couldn't, he hasn't developed to that point yet. If you don't get the practice, how are you going to get better? So yeah. I'm happy for him that he's in a new place, just as, you want everyone to, have a chance. But I'm also very excited that it did not work out because the 49ers in that draft passed on picking Fields. Not only did they pass on Fields, they traded 3 firsts for Trey Lance. And the following players after that, from 4 to 10 all the way up to Fields, 4 to 11, are great players. Jalen Waddle's in there. There's some other great players. I'd have to bring up the list, but a major miss. And why I'm kind of happy about that, the pettiness in me is because if you go back to 16, where we traded with San Francisco for Mitch and everyone's oh my gosh, why would you do that? And obviously it was bad, right? We missed out on Mahomes, but this on paper is way worse. And why I say that is because he didn't even get the field. He didn't play. At least Mitch got some starts with us, played seasons, and got us to the playoffs, right? Twice, right? And he was the Nickelodeon MVP. So, you know what
MVP.
I mean?
No, it is crazy when you think about just that trade and how, I think a lot of it with Mitch is, the Bears traded up. Not a lot of teams are going to trade up for him at that time. And then you have Patrick Mahomes, who, went later in the draft. Many teams actually passed on him, but we got so much, just flack for that miss. But you look at this trade, you kind of nailed it perfectly. It's honestly crazy just thinking about how much they gave up, and then they received a 4th round pick is what it was.
I think it was a 4th.
Yeah, it's honestly
not much.
Not at all. Not nearly enough in regards to what they, what they thought.
Top 3 player, bro. That high of a draft, you were supposed to hit. And normally when you hit, right? Even if you miss, they get playing time, right? So you think of a Sam Darnold or, Kyler Murray's still up in the air. But normally, even if you think of Baker Mayfield, right? I wouldn't say he's necessarily a big hit, but he's not a huge miss, but you could say he's a miss. But Baker Mayfield also played. He got on the field. Trey Lance did not get on the field. And unfortunately, a lot of that's to injuries, back-to-back seasons. But it's come on. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it is crazy. It was an hour ago when it was announced, number 3 overall pick, Trey Lance. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It's a business. The 49ers are so deep in regards to just how much talent they have. They found Brock Purdy late in the round or late in the draft. So, their roster is stacked up. For me, it all comes down to kind of Justin Fields. I tweeted this, which Ficky, you had a really funny tweet, which you kind of mentioned it about, they traded 3 firsts for him. And you're just don't ever bring up Mitch trade again, and it's true. This is honestly has to be one of the worst trades, or at least moves up for a quarterback.
Value-wise, yes, because how much you gave up and then how much you missed in that draft as well. Like think like that whole draft, if we go back, I still to this day, it doesn't make sense. You have the number 1 quarterback since high school and the number 2 quarterback since high school, right? Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, whatever order you want to put them in, that's fine. I won't argue that, right? They were like that since high school, prodigy kids, right? The whole QB1 documentary. They get to college, and they also showed that they're QB1 and QB2. They both ball out at Clemson and Ohio State. Then somehow we get to the NFL draft, and for some reasons, obviously Trevor Lawrence stays the same. Justin Fields is no longer QB2, and there's talks of he's QB4, possibly QB5. And I'm like, yo, how do you watch the tape and think that? And so I honestly thought, like in the very beginning, Dave, being honest, I thought it was just like, oh, it's that draft, like rumor stuff. Like it isn't real. That stuff's not, people, just saying that to like, just to put rumors out there. And then when it's like, no, they're really like, I think Schefter like basically confirmed like, yeah, it was the trade obviously. And they traded up and he was like, yeah, they're basically going after Trey Lance. I'm like, yo, that is such a risk for someone who does, even at that time, didn't have that many snaps. So good. I mean, that's on them. So,
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I said, enough of that. Trey Lance obviously will be in Dallas, probably be back in, Dak up for a couple of years. I don't think Dak's going to be giving up that position anytime soon.
No.
But before Jacob Infante is going to be hopping in here in about a minute or so. Before we get to that, Bears versus Bills. It's going to be mid-70s. It's going to be a beautiful day for football. Ficky, man, first of all, before we hop into the position battles, what are you expecting from the Bears as far as the starters go? How much do you think they're going to
You know what? It's tough because I don't know what 5 offensive linemen we're putting out there. We did see that a lot of the guys who are like, haven't been, dressed practice and whatnot. Eber said he expects they should be ready for week 1. So that's all I really care about. But because Eberflus even said, like, if Fields is out there, we want him with the starting 5 linemen, right? That's what you want. You want him out there with his weapons too. You don't want him out there getting beat up, right? So if the starters aren't all going to be out there, maybe Fields only needs to be out there. Like if it was like, hey, play a half, maybe I'm like, hey, play a drive. You know what I mean? Play a drive and a half, depending on how good the drive is. Like, I don't want you risking getting hurt when literally week 1 is right around the corner. So again, I can take a game if he doesn't play at all. Obviously it was announced he is, but like if it's 1 drive, cool. That gives me enough to get hyped and carry over into the week 1, but I can't risk him getting injured out there with not his starting line. So
yeah. Again, Jacob's going to be here in a minute. We just had a comment here. I swear if Bagent doesn't play more than a quarter. Oh, yeah. And we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about Tyson and how much we want to see him play, kind of what he needs to do to, I guess, win, if he hasn't already, that second QB spot. We'll talk about PJ Walker here in a minute. Speaking of it, we have Jacob Infante. Ficky, you want to go get the overlay and we can bring him in?
Got you.
All right. This is where the fun begins. All right. Jacob, can you hear us, man?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Am I coming in good?
Yes, sir.
You sound perfect, man. Jacob, so we appreciate, for those that don't know, Jacob is a NFL draft analyst for the Windy City Gridiron. He's been on the show, a couple months ago, and he's finally back. The preseason is almost over, and we're just going to kind of recap or preview the Bears versus Bills. Before we hop into it, though, Jacob, how you doing, man? Season's almost here.
I'm doing great, man. It's a wild time, honestly. Like I can't believe that it's finally just around the corner. But yeah, no, I'm just excited that this sort of dead period in the football offseason is over with. Preseason's giving us something to actually talk about, and now the regular season is just a few weeks away. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of stuff to talk about, one of the biggest topics right now is, backup quarterback Tyson Bagent. He's had 2 great preseason games. He's had a pretty good training camp. We're going to kind of talk about just key position battles, and we're going to start with the backup quarterback because it's honestly the talk of the week at least. It's PJ Walker versus Tyson Bagent. We have Nathan Peterman in there, but I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to kind of make that leap, at least as far as fighting for a roster spot, But I want to know who you think will come in first after Justin Fields tomorrow. Do you think it's Tyson or do you think it's PJ?
So what I think will happen and what I would do are two different things. I think PJ Walker is going to be the QB2. That's what I think. And that's going off of the fact that, he's played in the league longer. He has, some resemblance to success at the NFL level, stepping in as a spot starter, as a backup for, different areas. But at the end of the day, I think the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league. And there's no denying Tyson Bagent's been impressive in the preseason. So I think that I would give Bagent those second string snaps. Will he get them? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. Really? Just because I feel like that's the way they'll go about it. They might bring Bagent in a little bit earlier. They might keep the second stringers in a little bit longer just so Bagent can get some reps with the twos. But when it's all said and done, I think at least in the first game, they'll stick with Walker because, I mean, you could argue Walker's been the fourth best quarterback on the team in the preseason. And with the money they're paying him, I mean, granted, it's not like a ton.
$2 million? Yes, $2 million.
But it's more than what you'd pay a third string quarterback. It's more than what you'd pay a fourth string quarterback. I mean, so with all that considered, I'd say Walker they'll keep as the second string guy, but I think Bagent's done an incredible job in the preseason. I'd give him reps with the twos personally, but then again, I'm not in charge. So unfortunately, if you're,
that'd be great.
Ryan Poles, if you're out there, hit me up.
Right.
We're open. So
I agree with Jacob though. Like it's the backup quarterback. I feel like nowadays is so like based on experience. Like we see that all the time, and that's why these QB2s last forever. Like that's why who was our QB2 who was in the league forever? Just
Trevor Siemian.
Not Simeon, not last year. Sorry.
Chase Daniel.
Lance. Yeah, it came from the Lions.
Yeah.
See, that man's been a certified backup forever. But why they like that is because, like, they used to talk about, like, Chase Daniel come in and he does exactly what you want a pro to do. You know what I mean? And so when when the opportunity comes in where he has to fill in, you're not going to be worried that he doesn't know the plays or he doesn't run the offense, right? Skill may not be there, but they have the experience that you're not going to have those mess ups. So I agree with you, Jacob, that I feel like since PJ Walker's actually started NFL games, right, with talented people, including DJ Moore, that they have more faith in him, even though, and the tape may not show that at the moment. So.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I kind of hope to see Tyson come out tomorrow. I think it would just be fun, especially kind of how Flus and Getsy were kind of talking about Tyson. It would be cool to kind of give him that opportunity to see what he can do, get that confidence too, that vote of confidence. At the end of the day, we'll see. Now, I want to know, Jacob, what does Tyson have to do to win the job tomorrow? Is there anything he can do? Or is it kind of just automatically, hey, he may have a great game tomorrow, but at the end of the day, PJ has more experience. We're just not comfortable having him, a Division II quarterback come in here and back up Fields when he could be playing meaningful games to kind of help, especially with Justin Fields perhaps getting injured for a game or two. So is there anything he can do tomorrow? And if he can, what is it?
I think there is. I think there's stuff that he can do just because if Eberflus has been preaching that the QB2 spot is wide open, then I feel like it would be pretty hypocritical to not give Bagent like a realistic shot just because of how he's been playing. I mean, you'd be a fool not to consider it at the very least. So I have to say, maybe PJ Walker doesn't have another great, he has a game to the caliber of what he's had in the first two games. So not all that great. I think that would help Bagent's chances of jumping him in the depth chart. But also, I'd like to see Bagent, if he can get, say, like 2 touchdowns, if he can get some drives going on offense, if he can score multiple times or even 1 touchdown and a field goal in the preseason, I think that's worth looking into. Obviously, I think the standard's going to be higher for Bagent, and right now it's Walker's job to lose just because of, like we've mentioned, the experience and the fact they've paid him a little more. I guess they don't want to cut their losses or admit their mistake. But I think that if he plays the way he has through the first 2 games, doesn't even have to be as well as what he did in that one, massive drive in that last game against the Colts.
Beautiful.
Just good quarterbacking. As long as he has a good game And if Walker doesn't play super well, then I think he should have a realistic chance at quarterback too. It's just a matter of what are those outside factors going to do. I'm expecting Bagent, though, to have a good game. And truthfully, against some of that inferior competition that he's going up against, I think he's going to have the opportunity to really shine.
Well, Jacob, here's my follow-up with that. If, let's say he doesn't win QB2, do you think the Bears in their final depth chart, the rosters, they carry 3 quarterbacks? And if not, and he makes a practice squad, will he stay on there, or do you think another team will snipe him?
I think another team's going to snipe him. So that's why I'm thinking Bagent should be a roster lock. I mean, I feel like it'd be crazy to let him go, especially with the emergency quarterback rule that they have now, where in most cases it'd be beneficial for teams to have 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, because it doesn't count against the active 46 that you have. So, and that's incredibly valuable. You want to play it safe at the most important position of the game. So when you consider that, and the fact that Bagent's young, and the fact that he's been killing it in the preseason, I think that I'm 99% sure he makes the active roster. Whether or not he makes it as QB2, that's another story. But I think that the demand for that QB3 around the league is going to be a lot higher now than it ever has been. So if you're playing the risk of keeping him on the practice squad, that leaves, this guy's looked pretty good in the preseason, I'll give him a shot as my QB3. Let's steal him off the Bears practice squad. I think that there's going to be at least one team that would be willing to do that. So I think Bagent should make the team.
And it's interesting too, because I don't think we've been in this position in a decade where we've had a quarterback. Well, first off, we have a starting quarterback that we're happy about, or at least content with a little bit. And not only that, we double dip and we're helping get that development quarterback, right? I don't think Ryan Pace drafted a quarterback in his whole tenure other than Mitch, right? I don't think he. Yeah,
it was Mitch and Fields. So nobody outside.
I forgot about Fields. He did do that.
Yeah, you're good.
Parting gift.
Nobody outside of round 1, which is insane.
Wild. So, and I'm a proponent of every year you should, and maybe, I'm not a GM, maybe this is why, but I think every year you should just be picking up quarterbacks, right? Even if it's late round, because as we saw with the 49ers, and as you mentioned, Jacob, with that new rule, you're going to need a quarterback, right? They get hurt all the time because they have 250-pound linemen crushing their bodies, right? So I think it's important that not only we don't just keep them to have a third, but we also keep them to, let's see if we can develop something out of this. Kind of what basically what the Cowboys just did with Trey Lance. They're like, hey, let's go get him, and then let's see if we can actually make something out of it, right? The potential may be higher ceiling, but at the end of the day, if you can develop it in-house, it saves you money, and it's a safety net for you. So it can win you a game here or there.
Absolutely. I kind of agree with everything. In regards to Tyson, the only thing I'm a little concerned about is it is preseason, so it is kind of vanilla. Obviously with Fields, and you take everything with kind of grain of salt. It's hard to do, especially when it is, Justin Fields or a guy like Tyson, where you just get really excited. But he hasn't really pushed the ball down the field yet. And maybe he hasn't had the opportunity to, but it's been kind of short. He had, a good little, a couple big plays, but it's just, I'm a little concerned, and PJ has that experience. So as far as just giving him the reins, unless he balls out again tomorrow, I'm I just don't think you can do it, but you have to keep him. I agree with that. 99.9% sure. I think it would be a huge cut and a huge surprise. But as far as surprise cuts, I want to kind of get to the running back room. Tomorrow, there's a couple of position battles. I think the corner's kind of on lock now as far as, the Tyreek Stevenson and that battle going on. But the running back room is, it goes Khalil Herbert, Foreman. This is just the depth chart. So, Foreman could be way down the line right now, but that's how they have it. And then it's Roschon Johnson, Travis Homer, and then Treston Ebner. So tomorrow, who do you think who needs to perform to kind of keep that where they're at? Do you think Roschon has a chance to even leap Herbert? Or do you think at the end of the day, week 1, it's Herbert no matter what?
I feel pretty confident saying Herbert will probably start week 1.
Me too.
Whether or not that changes, that's up for debate. I think Roschon down the line has a legit shot to become the running back 1 in this offense. I'd say that, in all honesty, Deontay Foreman needs to have a good game because, you're looking at Roschon. He's performed quite well through his first 2 games. He's got all the momentum in the world right now. Foreman, hasn't really done a whole lot in the preseason. He's played, but hasn't necessarily done a ton with that playing time. So I think you ride the hot hand. I'm a firm believer in that. And right now that's Roschon over Deontay Foreman, over Homer, over Ebner. So I think that Roschon has a good shot to jump Foreman as the running back 2. And at that point, Homer has more special teams experience than Foreman. Do you want to keep 4 running backs? And to say Foreman was really good with the Panthers last year, I wouldn't advocate cutting him, but I don't think it's a 100% lock he makes the team just because of where they're at right now with Roschon playing well, with Homer's experience on special teams. I think Ebner's more of a practice squad candidate at this point, just because he didn't have a great rookie year and he hasn't capitalized in the preseason. But I'd say Roschon's got a real opportunity to rise up the depth chart. And even though I don't think he's going to be able to take that starting job week 1, I think that he can make a good case of, all right, I might not be the starter right away, but you're going to have to give me some touches because I'm playing really good football and I'm a level of size, speed, and power that's going to be really dangerous for NFL defenses to go up against.
I completely agree with you in regards to Roschon. And then, Ficky, before you go, man, so you said Foreman, which is interesting because Adam Johns, he came out with an article at The Athletic, and one of his surprise cuts was actually Foreman, which is, again, he had a very productive, I think he had more productive season than David Montgomery last year. And that's just, honestly, it's weird to say even reading it when I first.
Half the season too, I think, right? He didn't play the full season, as the starter, so. Yeah, the man went off like the second half of the season.
Yeah, and maybe that just shows just how deep that room is, which is good to have. But Ficky, who do you think, man? Do you think Foreman's going to be perhaps a cut, or?
I don't want him to get cut for 2 reasons. First off, we signed him, so signing someone in then cutting them, I don't really like that look. Yeah. And then secondly, running backs, as we know, get beat to crap. Like they get beat up. We've had multiple seasons where we had to go to running back 3, right? In the past decade, there's been multiple seasons where we've gone to RB3. So if that's the case, if you have 4, right, get into RB3 and your RB3 is Foreman, and even if it's Roschon, like that's much better than your RB, having that and then being able to make him RB1 and then your 4 become 2. Does that make sense? So I'm more happy with keeping 4 on the roster, and I think they will. And I know I just said that in the most difficult way ever, but yeah, I would like to have at least 4 just because they get beat every play. So kind of like I feel with linemen and running backs, any of those guys near the trenches, getting tackled every play or pass blocking, things like that, like prone to injuries. I say the more the merrier.
Yeah. I think it's just interesting, just the depth at some of these positions that the Bears have, given, where they were last year. It's honestly just relief. And it's fun that we kind of even get to have excitement going to this 3rd preseason game. Typically, I'm just like, all right, let's get to the season. But tomorrow, and I bet you guys kind of feel the same way, it's like there's a lot to still watch, outside of the QB battle, which is really fun, the backup QB battle. But there's just so many other spots. Another one,
Dave. Well, Dave, before we get off running back, Jonathan Taylor to the Bears. Herbert, Herbert in a second, and maybe something else. Do you say yes or do you say no for that? I know I want to ask you guys first before I give my opinion.
Yeah, I'll let Jacob go first, man. He's the guest. I know he feels pretty strongly here.
So I'll say I do really like Jonathan Taylor. I think he could put up insane numbers in this offense, but you also have to consider the high draft price that you have to give up for him. You also have to consider the fact that you're going to have to pay him big money. I wouldn't at that price.
What's your asking price then? Ideally, let's say.
So what I'd start. Okay, so I'd start with a 4th, not expecting them to say yes to that. I'd kind of lowball them a little bit, and then I'd work to say like a 3rd and then like a future 5th or something like that. I'd be willing to do that. I'm generally not a huge fan of, not only paying running backs a massive amount of money over a long-term deal, which sucks because they're incredible talents and, but it's just the nature of the position. They get beat up and they tend to fall off faster than most positions do. So I'd say no at 2 and Herbert. 3 and Herbert, I'd listen. I'd have to consult with my my front office scenario, but yeah, and that's coming from. I think Taylor's a stud, but just with what the Bears are at right now, I don't think they're one running back away.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Roschon off the table? If it's like, hey, a 5th round and Roschon, and you got yourself a deal. What?
So I'd value Roschon more than I'd value Herbert at this stage from a trade perspective, because you get 2 extra years of rookie contract at a running back, which is like that's a goldmine in today's NFL with just the way that the league's set up. So if you're going from like a 3rd and Roschon, I'd probably say no to that. 4th and Roschon, maybe I could be talked into it. But yeah, I generally think, would it be fun? Absolutely. And I just have a shitload of fun watching Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield with Justin Fields, just
so
running that option. How do you defend that? But you also have to keep in mind today's NFL. Like, do you want to pay a running back $15 million? They're going to want this 3-4 year deal. And, realistically, most times you get one good year out of them when they're on the contract and then off, and then they fall off. And
injuries too, like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, like we were saying earlier, you're in the trenches, you're getting hit so often, it leaves you more susceptible to injuries compared to, say a wide receiver or someone who doesn't get hit so hard every single time they're out there.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it's interesting about the whole thing is the Colts are like, nah, we're not going to pay you that. Oh, but what do we want in return is basically the same. You know what I mean? It's like, we're telling the league, you're not worth that, but hey, to get you off this team, you are worth that. You know what I mean? You're worth that. It's like, it can't work both ways here. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Dave, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So Jonathan Taylor is so interesting. He's so electric, in a different way than Fields, as far as just running the ball. But I mean, last year's production was a little bit, it was down, but he only played 11 games and he still almost had 1,000 yards rushing, which is insane to me. And then his last, the other 2 years, it was 1,800 yards, 1,169 yards. And then he's a pretty decent receiver too, where he has almost 40 plus receptions each season. So for me, it's a no brainer. Like, I don't want to sound crazy, but it's like, I don't believe the Bears have a talent in that backfield right now that could even match. Herbert, I love him, but Taylor's, I think, another tier or two. Roschon, I love the projection. I love the potential. And I think, that rookie contract, that's a lot of value right there, because Taylor's not going to come free. There's going to be a deal, and it's going to cost the Bears. And as far as draft capital, absolutely not a second. I don't even know if I think I would part ways with the 3rd. I really do. Just because you look at Bayless, 3rd rounder, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes. And so for me, it's like Jonathan Taylor, a 3rd round pick, and Herbert. I think you do that deal no matter. I think you do it 100%. But the only issue is the contract and how much, he's wanting a new deal. Is that right?
Yeah.
He's wanting to be extended. And so for me, it's like, how much would that cost the Bears? And that would obviously play a huge, factor. And
if we look at Poles' philosophy, it seems like it's not going to happen, because Poles so far has kind of been like more modern with like the type of team he's building. So unfortunately, like we said, we want these running backs to get paid, but at the same time, it's like we don't want to pay these running backs because we know how it is. So I don't think it's happening. It's more likely a pipe dream, but you never know. I mean, again, this is a new GM still. We've only seen 1 year of like moves he's made, and so far they've all been pretty good. So maybe, he takes a risk here. I don't know. It'll be interesting because he is only 24. So it still kind of aligns with, if you're going to take that risk, it might align. I don't know. You'd have to kind of say Fields is like, we have to be in competition like next year. If we're not in competition next year, then the Jonathan Taylor trade doesn't make sense. So I wonder how they project the team moving forward.
That's fair. And
I'm just shocked that Anthony Richardson. Oh, go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, just real quick, I think that the two teams that I'd pin down for Jonathan Taylor, just off the top of my head, I'd say Ravens and Dolphins. I think those are two teams who they're closer to competing than the Bears right now. Dolphins have a great offense ahead of them, haven't been able to figure out the running back position. I think you could make the argument. Sure, is Tua the type of guy to take you to the Super Bowl? I don't know, but that's a damn good roster. And Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield is huge. And then the Ravens, I mean, they're also.
Before we go to that one. Didn't the Dolphins didn't they just turn down the Dolphins trade offer though?
Yeah, so I did see something about that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they offered. I have no idea how they value Jonathan Taylor, but I do think that there's a possibility where maybe they'll get back to it and negotiate, because the Colts know the Dolphins have been trying to figure out that position for a while and haven't been able to. And then with the Ravens, I mean, Lamar Jackson and Jonathan Taylor, I think that's too good to pass up with where their backfield's been at with all the injuries and inconsistent play they've had. And again, I think you look, both of those teams, the Ravens and Dolphins, are ahead of where the Bears are right now. I think they're closer to being like a true Super Bowl contender than Chicago is. So I think a trade there makes more sense, given the need at running back and also given just where those teams are compared to Chicago.
I'm fine with that. Would be in the AFC, so we ain't got to.
Scary. That would be scary. Again, it's just like, how bad does Poles want to make a move? Does he value Jonathan Taylor? Does he see that fit kind of with Fields where it could be? I mean, that would be just a pain in the ass to deal with as far as like Taylor and Fields, and then you can bring in, if you keep Herbert, just a revolving door and keep Taylor fresh too. It would be interesting. Speaking of, trades, one that I think is even more intriguing. We were going to talk about the edge rushers and what it means for some of these players tomorrow against the Bills. Before we do, there's a report, a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation about Chris Jones, defensive tackle. For the Kansas City Chiefs, he's honestly probably top 2-3 at his position. He wants to get paid a lot. But, Kansas City is obviously, they have a value. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have players of their own they have to worry about. So as far as financials, it's just not going to work out more than likely. The Bears, ESPN 1000 confirmed it. There's been a bunch of, take Twitter with a grain of salt, of course, but there's a bunch of rumors about the Bears being at least interested. They've made a call, which they should do. But Jacob, does Chris Jones trade, does that intrigue you more, or are you kind of out on that too?
I'd say that intrigues me more for sure.
Yeah.
I think that in today's NFL, especially a defensive tackle who can rush the passer as well as Chris Jones does, that's something you don't see very often. So he's one out of like maybe 5 blue chip defensive tackles in the entire league. And, maybe that I'm being generous, just off of pure 3 techs who can rush the passer, like Aaron Donald, DeForest Buckner, Chris Jones, and then Jeffrey Simmons, maybe. I'd have to think about the rest of them. But, with that said, I think that Chris Jones isn't going to come cheap. I know we mentioned there's going to be a high price for Jonathan Taylor. There's going to be a way higher price for Chris Jones, given his positional value, given his proven production. But I do think that it makes all the sense in the world, really. Just what Chicago is, what their defense is rooted in. Obviously, there's such a big value at the 3 technique defensive tackle position. And Chris Jones, you can't get much better than Chris Jones. So it fixes that situation perfectly. For the people saying, oh, but they drafted Dexter, they drafted Pickens. Yes, you have those guys, but also keep in mind defensive tackles rotate in and out a bit because they're big guys, like 320 pounds that are taking a beating consistently. You like to rotate them. So just because you drafted 2 guys there who, both of them really good athletes, high ceilings, but both of them were kind of touted as being raw coming out of college. You get a guy like Chris Jones, he serves as a great mentor for those guys, and you can maybe slow just exactly how much you need to expect from Dexter and Pickens, how much you need to rely on those guys coming in. So again, I know he's going to be 30. If he's 29 or 30 years old, I don't remember which. And
he just turned 29.
Oh, so okay. Gotcha.
I mean, it's not bad. It was his July birthday. So I mean, it's still, pass rushers. You don't know. He's close to 30. He's almost 30, which it could be. Yeah. When did we get Mac? When did we get Khalil Mack? How old was he? Was he 28?
27, I think.
He's 20. Oh, so prime. So
that,
he's probably prime.
Right. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like 27.
So one thing, and Ficky, I'll let you get on this because I know you're passionate about this. And so, but one thing that's interesting, there was a report. It was Jones was wanting around $30 million per year. And I don't know if he's looking for a long-term deal, if that's like 2 or 3 year deal, but he wants Aaron Donald money. And for me, that's an insane amount. I don't think the Bears can do that. Jacob, I kind of want to get your thoughts. Is that too high? And is there a possible, like, how much would you be willing to pay him to come to Chicago? And then also, 2-part question here. It's going to cost at least a first rounder, in my opinion. Yeah. Are you willing to give up that pick as well? Or kind of what would you kind of do if you were Ryan Poles, put on the GM hat? How would you kind of facilitate this trade? How would you talk with Chris Jones? Hey, I can't do 30, but what would you be able to what would you cook up?
So I'd pay him over 25. That's for sure. I think that where the defensive tackle market's at, like Deron Payne got over 20. I think Jones plays, I think 3 tech's more valuable than like that 1 tech type of nose. I see that comment there. Give up Chicago's first round pick and keep Carolina's. I think they're going to ask for Carolina's because, assuming if you're adding Chris Jones to this Bears roster, the Bears are going to have the worst pick and the Panthers are going to be higher up. What I'd be interested in doing is I'd offer the Bears 2025 first round pick. And with that in mind, because you still have 2 seconds, keep that, you got the second round pick from the Panthers trade, and then you have your own second round pick. You have 2 firsts in 2024, get an edge rusher, maybe 2 edge rushers, I don't know, and then or a wide receiver, an offensive lineman. You could go crazy with that. And we've seen the Bears back in 2020, they had 2 second round picks. They got Cole Kmet and Jalen Johnson out of it. Just the other year, they had Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker as 2 second round picks. You can do some serious damage, and you can add some serious value to your roster with 2 second round picks. That's what I do. I'd offer the 2025 first, see if the Chiefs are into it. Maybe throw in like a 2024 fourth so they get some sort of quicker value. But that's what I'd offer. I don't think I'd part with Carolina's first round pick just because I think that's going to be too high. Chicago's maybe, but I don't know. At that point, with how much you're going to be paying him, I think that does affect his stock a little bit. But in an ideal world, if you're trading for Chris Jones, you keep both of your first round picks in 24, move on from one in 25, which would probably be a later one anyway, and then just go crazy in the 2024 offseason.
Honestly, it's go Ficky.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, are we one player away? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's Chris Jones' talent.
That defense would be legit.
It'd be much better. It'd be much better. It would be, but we're still missing some like really good defensive ends. You know what I mean? Like, he improved the team, but like, does that move us from 7 wins to 9 wins, or like 9 wins to 11 wins? I mean, yeah. I just feel like there's a comment here, which I agree with. Don't rush the process. I think so far, Poles has stuck to it, and they agree with Whitfield here as well. Let's just build through the draft. All right. Maybe, let's just keep, we have to see what this team's about. I think this year, let's kind of see, like, is Fields the dude? If Fields is the dude and that's confirmed, then we can start thinking about moves like this. What I get scared of is PTSD from 2018, where we were like, is Mitch the dude? I mean, I wasn't, but people out there like, was Mitch the dude? And Pace is like, I'm just going to risk it. If he is, we're set. If he's not, you screw the team for, years to come. And this is a big deal, not as big as Mac. So I'm like, let's kind of confirm that Fields is that guy. Once that's done, then because it's going to happen next year. There's disgruntled stars all the time not getting their money. Next year, we have cap space. We still have picks. We're going to see a new batch of people, and there's going to be trades that happen. So I'm more like, let's forego this one until we get more confirmation about what this team really is.
Okay. Well, hear me out, because he said he's willing. Chris Jones, he tweeted something. He made a comment. He said, "I'm willing to sit out to week 8. As far he'll lose a lot of money, but he said, I am not playing. I will sit out." Now, I mean, he has to back that up. But if that's the case, and you get about 5 games of Justin Fields where he's just, first of all, destroys the Packers week 1 and then just continues to ball out, and you see, okay, yep, he's the guy, then you could perhaps make that trade. But for me, even if you made it now, because with Jacob, great point, and if you could sell the 2025 first round pick, you keep both next year. If Fields isn't the guy, you could still get a quarterback next year, and then that rookie quarterback is going to be loaded up. Like, you're going to have a defense that is ready for him. You're going to have an offense that should be, still top of the league, especially if DJ Moore is still there, which he should be. But to have a rookie quarterback come into a scenario next year where you're just going to have still a ton of draft capital at your disposal. You got 2 first-round picks. I mean, it could be interesting, especially say the Panthers somehow are the worst team next year and they're number 1. We're right back in the driver's seat, and Jacob is going to go crazy with his mock drafts. So he's going to be busier than all get out, but he loves it. He's a sicko. But it'll be so interesting. It would be so interesting if you had a rookie. Not that I don't want Fields to succeed, because that would kind of, if he is the guy, then it's like you're jump started. It's electric.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing, just to combat that on the other side, is that, well, if that does happen, right, there's a couple things that have to go our way. So if we do have Chris Jones at this point and Fields is not the dude, and first of all, I got to put this comment back up on here, because yes, I know Fields is way better than Mitch. Yeah, I'm never questioning that. I think everyone here agrees with that. Way higher potential, and I think he's going to ball out. But let's just say hypothetically he doesn't. We have Chris Jones. So the first thing that has to happen is we have to get one of the 2 picks have to be somewhere within the range to get someone like Caleb Williams or what's the guy from North Carolina?
Drake May.
Yes. So to get one of those 2, or, we can package them up and move forward. Then the next risk is the risk that comes with every player in the NFL draft. We then have to ask the question again, is this guy that dude? Because if he's not, right, then now we have all this money spent up on, someone like Chris Jones. Instead, the safer route, not as exciting, is, okay, let's figure out if Fields is not, we still have all our picks. So it's not like we have all this wasted money on these stars that we brought in to, compete for a championship. Most of it's homegrown. We can start getting old contracts like Eddie Jackson, things like that. And we'll still have enough talent around him, because we've been building this past couple 2 drafts, that new rookie quarterback can, he's not coming in with like a garbage team like Mitch did in 2016. So that's just, I'm not going to be mad if he Chris Jones. I'll freak out. I'll be excited, but it's like, is it a little bit premature? I guess we'll find out.
No, it's interesting. I like I said, it's all hypothetical at this point. Jacob, do you have anything else you want to share on Chris Jones or anything like that, man?
I'll just say, purely hypothetical here. So let's talk Chris Jones, Yannick Ngakoue, DeMarcus Walker, Javon Dexter, Justin Jones, Andrew Billings, Zach Pickens, Travis Gibson, probably Terrell Lewis. That's not a perfect defensive line, but that's a way, way better defensive line than what they had, say, like a month ago. You bring in Yannick as a guy who can contribute off the edge, who's been consistent as a pass rusher, maybe not as like a full 3-down guy who can defend the run super well, but he can get after the quarterback, as good as almost anyone. And then you bring in a guy like Chris Jones. Somehow, if you're able to keep both of your first rounders in 2024 and you draft, say, like a JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State, a Dallas Turner from Alabama, Jared Verse from Florida State, and whoever else jumps up the board at that time, you're cooking with something. So that it's a fun hypothetical to think of. I don't think it's going to happen. I'll just clarify that. I know I've talked a little bit about it. We've talked about it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But that would be pretty fun. I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah. It's fun to think about. That's what football season is really all about. And the season is almost here. So as far as just hypotheticals, we're kind of probably won't be talking about it too much because there's just be so much to break down, so much to talk about with just the actual games being played. Jacob, I know you got to head out of here. We appreciate hopping in, man. We really do. One last question before you go. I'm not sure. Last time we had you on, I'm not sure if we asked this question. We've been asking it to every guest that comes on that is a Bears fan. So if I asked you this already, just let me know. But who is your favorite Bears player of all time and why? Put you on the spot.
I don't think you asked me that the last time. So I think what I'm going to go with is my favorite Bears player of all time is Brian Urlacher.
Wow. Okay. That's a good one. We haven't had that one yet.
Yeah. So I'll say that, growing up, like when I first got into football, it was the mid 2000s Bears, those tremendous defenses that, that hard-nosed running game, that great offensive line, the, inconsistent quarterback play, but, still love them all the same. And Brian Urlacher was the face of the franchise at the time. And which is crazy to think about now, like a middle linebacker being the bona fide superstar of that defense. Oh, don't play that one. Oh, yeah.
Well, that was a bad one. I remember that game.
Yeah. all the others. Though.
That was like that was more near the end of his career, though. So that doesn't count. He was much slower at that point.
But yeah. But yeah, no, Urlacher was. I just remember I loved watching him play. I thought, how hard he hit guys, how good he was as an athlete, how big he was, just how well he moved for that size was unbelievable, how smart he was. This is really impressive stuff. And Brian Urlacher, number 54, is the first Bears jersey I ever owned. And I think it was solidified for me so I had the chance a couple of years ago to actually interview Brian Urlacher. And
that's dope.
Yeah, no. And it was he just made it into the Hall of Fame. And I was just like, I wasn't even in college at the time. Like I was like a senior or whatever in high school. And it was the most intimidating thing ever. But his like the hair growing company or whatever. Yeah, like
billboards.
Yeah. The billboards literally everywhere in Chicago. But yeah, no, they sponsored it, and they, their PR person reached out to me, and I'm like, sure, I'll go. I'll talk to Brian Urlacher or whatever. And I went there. I remember being so nervous. I'm like, because I had talked with players before, I'd interviewed guys before, but this was my favorite player growing up, and I'm, clearly the youngest one there. And I had the chance to speak with him one-on-one, just a super cool dude. It treated me like just one of the guys. And there's a little tidbit. I remember on my way out, we had the interview. It was great. The Bears had just traded for Khalil Mack, so we were talking about that. And I grabbed, there was a plate of cookies. Like they had drinks and stuff. And, I had to drive home. Plus I was in high school, and I never once consumed alcohol, not at all, when I was, underage. No, not once. About, but yeah. So I took a cookie. Yeah. Me, never, no way. Yeah. So I took a cookie on the way out, and Brian Urlacher, he finished his interviews, and he was walking around with some of the representatives, and he said something like, "Hey Jacob, don't go taking all the cookies. I want to get some." And I'm like, dude, the fact that Brian Urlacher just said my name and joked around with me in the hallway, I was trying so hard to not fanboy out in that moment. So yeah, for that moment, and then just for him being the superstar of the team when I first got into football, he'll forever hold that spot in my heart. So I rambled a bit, but that's my dude, Brian Urlacher story.
No, that's great.
I love it. I love it.
No ramble at all. You kind of broke the streak though. The last 3 episodes, last 3 guests we've had, it's been Devin Hester, 3 in a row.
Everybody's Devin. Yeah.
I'm glad you came up with someone. Brian Urlacher is a pretty easy one too. He's an amazing player.
Yeah. The fact that he was a former safety too is wild. Did you imagine? He was much small. He was never small, but he was much smaller at Arizona, right? Or Arizona State.
That was New Mexico.
New Mexico. That's right. New Mexico.
Yes.
That's right. Boy.
Lobos, baby.
Can you imagine running a deep post and then Brian Urlacher comes across and hits you? Oh, God, man. Oh, God. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Man. I got a good question thinking about that.
Is he as big? Is he as big in person?
He's a big dude. Yeah, he's
Because he looks ginormous.
Yeah, he's like 6'4", and I'm like 5'10", so he towered over me. And I don't think he was like 250 like what he was in his playing days, but he was still, I'd say, like a good 220 maybe. So he's still a bigger cat. Yeah, it was daunting, but he was just a super cool dude.
Yeah. I think the crazy thing about him is that he was that big and could move. So, like, not near the end of his career, it was more like instinctual, but like his prime years, that man was fast and I mean, other than maybe like Ray, he may have been bigger than Ray Lewis, but like I put like him and Ray Lewis like size wise and speed together, but like you don't really, especially in today's NFL, you don't see boys that big other than Tremaine Edmonds. So.
We got Urlacher 2.0 coming up.
I'd hope so. Get the gold jacket. So.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Edmonds. I really am. But Jacob, again, we're kind of running over. We appreciate you hopping on, man, taking more than what you even signed up for. But we appreciate it. If you guys want to check him out, just Windy City Gridiron. I'm kind of looking through. I don't see a mock draft recently, unless I'm missing it, Jacob. But he's amazing. Yeah, taking a little break, but he's an amazing just content creator. He has amazing mock drafts. He's one of the best, most, I would say, authentic people just in regards to that covers the Bears. So
funny as hell on Twitter. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up the tweet, which we'll get it. We'll get it. But anyways, Jacob, you have a great night, man, and enjoy tomorrow's game, okay?
No, of course. Thanks you guys for having me on. I'll just say mock draft coming out before the regular season starts, man.
Hell yeah.
Hey.
I'm sick in the head. I'm disturbed as all hell, but I'm rolling with it, baby. I'm rolling with it. So, yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely,
Thanks,
man.
Jacob.
You take care, all right?
Yes, sir. See you guys.
Yeah, that was great. Jacob was great.
Oh, he's amazing. I love Jacob. Again, give him a follow, guys. He's honestly just an amazing dude. Obviously, he covers the Bears, one of our favorite team. But his content is just it's unique. He loves the draft, which I mean I'm a big draft guy myself, but he just is two tiers above, and he's funny, man.
His I'm sorry, maybe I'm more of his demographic, but his tweets have me busting up. All the time. Man. It's just so funny. I just love funny people, and Jacob's great. Plus his other, content he puts out, but yeah, he's just a funny man. So definitely give him a follow. Follow Windy City Gridiron, all that good stuff. We'll have him on again, but great stuff.
Absolutely. Now, Ficky, we got another 20. We'll do another 10 to 20 minutes here. We want to finish up just previewing the Bears versus Bills game. Again, if you like that interview, if you liked having Jacob on the pod and you're enjoying today's content, just take a second, like the video. If you're live right now, it really does help the channel grow. Tell a friend, tell a Bears fan. Like Ficky always says, we appreciate the support here recently. Too. Yeah, absolutely, man. They need to learn a little bit about real football. But anyways, if you like the content, just go ahead and just a thumbs up. If you really enjoy it, want to help, subscribe. We have another great guest next week coming on, and we're just excited for the season to be here. So back to football. We have the punt returner. It's a key position that a lot of us are going to be looking towards tomorrow. Dante Pettis, he went to IR today, which was surprising. Kind of creates a interesting dilemma when it comes to the wide receiver room itself. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But it will be interesting to see who comes out tomorrow. Is it going to be Velus? Is it going to be Tyler Scott, the rookie? I want to know, who do you think gets the most reps tomorrow at the returning spot?
And before that, I know we're saving our comments for the end, but this one just aligns with it. And it's a good question, right? Do you think our punt return is even on the roster now? And that's actually a good question.
Great question.
I don't know. I really don't. I saw some, again, it's rumor city right now, but I saw some rumors about Rondell Moore, who I love. I even when he came in, he's very fast, speedy, great hands.
Yeah,
he's also a punt returner out in Arizona. He's a wide receiver. I think he's like wide receiver. Well, when D-Hop was there, he was wide receiver 2, but I think he's wide receiver 1 now. Talk about a trade. I would trade for him. Honestly, okay. I know we have a lot of wide receivers, and it may not make sense. We may have to ship someone, but you can never have too many weapons, and you have a certified punt returner. Of course, it depends on how much it is, all that stuff. Like I'm not giving up big draft picks and capital for Rondell Moore. But going back to your question, Dave, who's returning back there? I don't know. I really don't know. I have no idea at this point. I can't read the room. Like, I want to give Velus another chance. Call me crazy, but like, if you're going to do it, the man needs practice, right? If you're going to do it in the preseason. Who cares if he muffs? Yeah. This game doesn't matter at all when it comes to win or loss. So like, throw him back there. Tyler Scott, that's our boy, but he was like, he's a rookie and he wasn't returning them like better than Velus. So my question is like, do we go to someone next? As Velus lost the position officially, right? And we know Dante Pettis, we said this last time, Dante Pettis can catch the ball, but like, bro, you're not going anywhere. If Velus can catch the ball, I'm like, oh, you could get us 5 to 15. You know what I mean? So I almost want to take the risk with Velus in preseason again. But how do you feel about it?
For me, the issue is we're not going to be, tomorrow it's like, hopefully the defense does get a lot of stops and we get a lot of reps, a lot of opportunities to see some of these guys. Cause it's like, are we going to get 2? Are we going to get 4? 6 would be ideal. But for me, you got to give Velus another chance. You do. I don't know if you split it between him and Scott, but I think Scott is electric. I think he has I don't know how much experience he has. Cause again, he played running back in high school, he told us. And then he switched to receiver going, to college. He never played receiver in high school, made the switch, was insanely good at it. Obviously got drafted. But how much did he return? How much, Velus has some experience. I don't think he did either. I don't think he had any experience returning. And so to do it at the NFL level is not easy. Dante Pettis was an electric, return man in college. And even in the NFL, he's ball security is, obviously important. That's the most important part. Obviously being able to judge, hey, do I take this one? Do I let it bounce? Velus obviously struggles with that right now. But Dante still wasn't able to kind of break away what, those runs that he did in college. So it's just, it takes a special person in Chicago. We know that, Devin Hester, to be able to Tariq Cohen, which, he is trying to make a comeback in the league. I think the Bears should work him out. I already did a huge article on this. That's on Sports Mockery.
The only problem is, no, you're right. No, I was going to say that's who I wanted. Honestly, I was like, at this point, just bring Tariq back. The great comeback story, you can read on what's happened to Tariq and whatnot, but I was here for it. But I think he was on a live Twitch podcast. Oh, Twitch. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, they don't want me. So that's the only reason why I didn't bring him up, but that's the perfect fit. Like Tariq catching the ball back there. Of course, I don't know how well he can run after his injuries and whatnot, but I trust Tariq back there compared to anybody else on this roster other than Dante, because Dante's on IR. So who knows, man? I have no idea with this position, but they need to figure it out. Week 1's right around the corner. And we hope our defense forces some punts. So
I think it's interesting. Yeah, they better. But it is interesting that, Dante Pettis going to IR, it really does clear up the receiving room, in my opinion. So right now we have, let me take a look at it. And again, I guess I'm jumping the gun here. As far as, is the punt returner situation, again, I don't think he is on the roster. I think that's a great point. Cordell Patterson, that would be awesome. And then, did you just say we traded for
No. Sorry. The next comment said he trade. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like,
bro, that'd be crazy if you'd be a little.
Yeah, you need to start speaking a little bit more. Exactly. Chris Jones, for pennies, please. Anyways, that's funny. For those listening on Apple, Spotify hereafter, it was a comment on YouTube that said traded for Rondale Moore. He meant to say trade for Rondale. So interesting, funny. I was shook for a minute. Got pretty hyped. Now the receiving room, jumping over there, we have obviously it's on one end we have DJ Moore, Velus Jones Jr. Dante Pettis was the third string receiver on that side. Isaiah Ford was behind him, and then we have Mooney, St. Brown, Scott right there, and then Webster, Joe Reed I think was actually waived as well.
Yeah, so what about Fountain? What about Fountain? Because he's been balling out.
He's at the bottom. He's at the back. I don't even see him on here. Maybe they signed him.
He's had a good preseason, so I'm kind of like, if anyone's shown it, I know, but it's like, again, we go back to this punt return, so we can't get rid of Dante. Now he's on IR, so it doesn't go against the roster. But
what happened? Like, did I miss an injury?
I don't know.
I watched that entire game back. Watched all this stuff. He was fine. It has to be something that happened during the I see Fountain here. Actually, I'm sorry. It's Claypool, Scott, and then Fountain, who's the third string. So he could have a spot on the team too. It's like, how many receivers are they going to keep? who do they value?
I think last year they did 7, which is a lot. So I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, but I think last year they did 7. If it wasn't 7, it was 6. And if it's 6, that's even tougher because we know the first 4 easily. They're locked. It's DJ, Mooney, Claypool, Scott. 5th is probably Velus. I just feel like it is. He's the best kick returner in the NFL.
And Poles spoke very highly of him during his interview on Hogan Johns, which is, first of all, a great podcast. If you're listening to this one, I'm sure you've listened to Hogan Johns, but it was a great interview, a lot of great insight. And that right there struck me as regards to, okay, they value him. Now, was this before the punt? Yeah, this was before the muff, I believe.
No, it was after. I think
it was after.
Yeah, I think it was after.
Even better. Yeah. But
they asked him about has he shown enough on offense? And Poles is like, yeah, basically, in essence. I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, yeah, he's shown enough on offense. So
it's going to be interesting. I think the battle there is. I think tomorrow it'll be fun to watch, especially if say they rotate. Okay, it's Velus, then Scott, Velus. It's just like I would love for Velus just to be the guy.
Question is, Scott even play? Because I think he was like banged up last week. I don't know. They haven't announced.
I thought he was okay. I thought he was.
You might be right. I'm just curious. I hope so. I would love to see Velus and Scott out there.
Yeah, I think Scott needs to play. Is his spot locked in there?
His only. Well, he's making the roster. He's making the roster for sure. There's no way he's not making the roster. Yeah. There's no way. I'm so confident on it.
Me too. And Tyler Scott, like I say all the time, friend of the pod. I'm rooting for him. I think he does deserve that spot. But if he doesn't, availability is the best, ability. And so
the rookies, if he goes to so cheap, they're so cheap.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Sometimes. And also, they give them more. There's more of there's a longer leash with the rookies. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's his 3rd year, like a EQ, right? That leash gets shorter and shorter the longer in the league because that question that Jacob brought up with the statements like, what have you done for me recently? Right. It's hard to say that with rookies because it's like you haven't done anything because you haven't been out on the field. So like that leash is so long to like give them time to learn and grow, to like really cut with someone that you just drafted you don't see that in the NFL, Dave, like 4th round or lower getting cut the first season. You have to either be in like legal trouble or like just, not giving effort.
Terrible.
So yeah, but even still, they're like, oh, we'll give you time to learn and mature and stuff like that. So I think that's a certified lock. It's going to be people that have been in the league for a minute that like, where else do you bring value to the team? So EQ, right? Where else do you bring in value? Are you good enough to just block? Even Velus, it's a shorter leash, but I think 2 years, still he's like, it's only his 2nd year. So I think they're going to give more time there. So it'll be interesting though, that like back 3 wide receivers, Pettis, EQ, Fountain. It's going to be interesting to see who fills those roles or fills that spot.
No, that's why I'm so excited. I bet everyone else is too, but I'm excited for tomorrow's game. Obviously it's cool that Justin's playing, but at the end of the day, there's just so much at stake on this roster because of the youthfulness, the influx of talent that Poles was able to bring in just from, the end of last year to now. So it's exciting. Returner will be something I'm looking into. So our last segment we're going to do here today is I want to know kind of what the biggest storyline is going to be coming out of the Bears versus Bills preseason game. It can be Bills related. Probably want to stick with the Bears. Give me a storyline that you think. We'll kind of go back and forth. Maybe we'll give 2 or 3 that we think is just going to be talked about the most after this preseason game's over.
Mine's not a fun answer, but I think it's a very realistic answer. And the answer is injuries. And not like, oh, what were the injuries from the game? But like now that the preseason's over, it's like, who's ready for week 1, right? And it's kind of been the topic for the past 2 weeks, right? Because we've had a lot of people sitting out, a lot of star names. So I think we're going to come out of this, knock on wood, that, there aren't any more injuries added. And the big question is like, all right, who's ready for week 1? Because that's all that matters now at this point, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing when I'm looking at because I care more about the starters than, wide receiver 7. So yeah, I would go with that, but there's going to be more than one big storyline in my opinion. That's just one of them. I think that's going to
hit the headline. And then we'll throw, like I said, we'll probably do 2 or 3 each real quick. We think we're going on an hour here, which is always good. I mean, we love talking football. We appreciate everyone that's hopping in with us, been in the chat, been very active. Again, we appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like button if you can. Anyways, my biggest storyline is air yards. I think it's going to be eliminated. Again,
relax.
Yeah, air yards. I don't think maybe we'll joke about it, but I believe that Justin is going to at least, I think he's going to play a quarter. I don't think it's going to be a drive or two. I think he will play a quarter. That's my guess. And I think he's going to really, again, it is vanilla. Preseason is preseason. You take it with a grain of salt. But what he needs to do, what he's supposed to do, is he needs to light him up. It's preseason. Not all the starters are going to be there. If DJ Moore is out there, Claypool's out there, which I don't know if he will be, Mooney, if the starters are out there and the O-line can at least, protect him a little bit, which I think they're going to be rolling him out. They know that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the starting line. So they're going to be careful, keeping him healthy. But I need Fields to go out there and just ball out. Whether it's, 2 great drives or if he does play that full quarter, I need some air yards. I need some, push it down the field, whether it's a big ball to Mooney, just to shut everyone up a little bit, in regards to, the screen passes, which is what you want. You want Fields to have to work less, run less, and make it easy on himself and let his playmakers, make plays. Get the ball out quick. It doesn't matter if it's just a little bit behind DJ Moore. That's why he is the number 1 receiver. He will catch it wherever. That's how good he is. His hands are amazing. So for me, the biggest storyline coming out of this game is Justin Fields and the ability to push the ball down the field. I think we're going to see some intermediate and perhaps a deep shot or 2, hopefully, in regards to just, air yards. I think he's going to have more. So what's your next storyline coming out here?
He can't have less, Dave, because I think he had negative. Yeah, it'd be really tough.
Had negative 7, something like that. Yeah, I think he could, man.
That's crazy. I'd say my next one, which we talked about, but is I think is actually probably bigger than my first one, but I wanted to give a different perspective, was QB2 position. Right? If Tyson balls out in this next game, right, or plays how he's been playing, it's really because now the decision has to be made. The roster has to get cut to 53. So it's going to be who's QB2? And if he gets cut, the next storyline is he making the practice squad, and then will he last on there? So, I mean, I know we already did depth into that, but I think that's probably my eyes, who I'm watching in this preseason the most is probably that. It's the most exciting. It's quarterback. Let's see, because I'm rooting for the guy. Hopefully Tyson can make the squad.
Okay, I like that one. I'm going to go defense here. This one, Tyreek Stevenson. Last week, I was kind of critical of just, the way he played. He had another penalty, which, again, learn now, do it in the preseason. Don't let it cost you in the regular season. But for me, in that red zone where he just had a ball go through his hands, he joked, earlier this week how he's like, I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to show you guys that I can actually catch the ball. And I think it was one of his knocks coming into the league that, his ball hawking skills are just, it's not like, an Eddie Jackson, or something like that. It's similar to Jalen, where the production just wasn't there in college. I think he can do it. You saw the instincts on that play, which I think I can bring it up here in a second, but Tyreek Stevenson, I think he's going to have a bounce. I think he just he's a confident player. And in my opinion, I believe he's going to prove that. I think he's going to get a lot of snaps. And I think he's gonna ball out. I really do. I'm hoping. I think one of the storylines coming out of this one is Tyreek Stevenson. It's already kind of been solidified, but he is going to be the starter at corner. And I think we're going to finally be I think he's going to pick. I think he's going to make a play where it's there it is. That's what we've been waiting for. He's been good, especially against the Titans. I thought he had a lot of great plays. He almost had another interception then. So it's back-to-back weeks in preseason where the ball's hitting him in the hands. And it's one could have been a pick 6. One would have been a big turnover in the red zone that ultimately ended up being 6. So for Tyreek Stevenson, I think this is where he's going to, all right, you know what? Maybe it's on Josh Allen. I don't know. That would be great. Probably not. Probably going to be on the backup quarterback. But nonetheless, I think the storyline coming again, Tyreek Stevenson, has he arrived? No, but I think he's going to be making a significant leap, and the buzz is just going to be even bigger come week 1. So what's your third final storyline, Ficky?
Oh, I don't know if I have a third one, to be honest with you, but let me go off of your storyline. And at least what we're seeing with him is maybe the catching's not there yet. Catching can be improved, jug machine, all that stuff. What's harder to teach is instincts. And that man is in the right position a lot of times, right? So I'm sure you're going to show the play, but that's not even his man, right? I think he's in his zone and he comes over to shade, right? So he sees the ball where it's going to go. He just goes through his hands, So I think I'm not too worried about him. Obviously, I want to see him play more. He's a rookie, but I agree with you. I think he's very confident. See, but look, that's not even him. He's shading over. He catches that. That's a great play.
That's what I'm saying. It's a great. He came over. Again, we're watching here. He came over and made a play. That's the same thing as last against the Titans week 1 preseason, where it's like it's on the sidelines. He jumps the route a little bit, and it just he can't catch it. And it's like, okay, first game, rookie, it is what it is. This one, it's like another great instinct play. The athleticism is on full display, and even I just don't know how he didn't catch it. And he joked around. He's like, I'm going to show you guys, that I can catch the ball, and it's like, please do, because that would have been a highlight. Like that would have been just a huge, huge highlight and a huge boost of confidence for him heading into. I don't even know if he plays. He probably does play this week, but he makes this play or he makes back, the week 1 interception. He makes this interception. It's like, man, do you even want to play him?
He's just saving him for the regular season. But like you said, the instinct is what's important, right? The instinct is what I like to see. He's able to jump on these. We've seen it over and over again. He's physical. We already knew that was one of his strengths. But like so far as a rookie, again, this is premature because we haven't seen him play NFL snaps against, all starters. But I'm excited to see him play. So I guess my third storyline would be, are there any other rookies that step up, right? So like in the third game, do we see Javon Dexter have a breakout game? Do we see Zach Pickens still look, he's had some big splash plays, right? Obviously Tyreek Stevenson's that we've talked about. Roshan Johnson, does he get some big runs? Because he looked good last game, right? He had some great runs. He's looked good all preseason. So really, I'm, just like most preseason, it's focused on the waiver wire guys who's on the, the potential to get cut, and your rookies. So I want to see like what rookies show up tomorrow, because I think that's what's going to make the game like so exciting, because we get so caught up in like the potential, you know what I mean? When we see, oh, wow, these are great picks. This is great depth that we have. And then hopefully it'll start to show out, in the NFL season. So either way, all these storylines, I think they're great. I'm excited. Week 1's almost here. But Dave, what's your last one?
Yeah, last one. Again, I've been positive, so I'm going to go negative here as well. I don't think it's going to be awful. I think we're going to see a lot of it maybe on the All-22 film, just watching the replay back. I think the offensive line is going to be okay. I think Fields is going to mask a lot of that just because of his elite ability to kind of escape and maneuver and extend plays. I think that's one of the best things about Fields is his athleticism. It's so rare. He's going to make the offensive line look a little bit better than it really is tomorrow, just because of the patchwork that's coming in. I think they're going to be missing 3 starters, some really good players there. So I think after the game, one of the biggest storylines, and I think Poles is going to realize this too, and having the number 1 spot at the waiver wire, having a lot of flexibility, having $15 million in cap space, some free agents out there, Jason Peters, just kidding. But again, it's those type of players where it's like, I think Poles is going to realize it too. We're like, okay, I think we need to get another depth piece here, because we don't know how long Tevin's out. I'm thinking 6 weeks max, probably. If he can come back sooner, great. But again, it's just, you need depth there. And so to really utilize that waiver wire pick and maybe sign, 2, 3, 4 million offensive someone that has been in the league that can just add a little bit more, because it's young right now. There's a lot of youth on that line outside of, some of the vets. Again, Nate Davis worries me too, crazy story coming out about him, but I just think that the offensive line is not going to look as good as we kind of, obviously we don't have high expectations, but it's like, I think it's going to look worse than I think what we might even expect. I don't think Fields is going to be sacked a ton, but I think there's going to be issues where it's like, okay, Fields having to escape again. Like, why is he already, leaving the pocket? Again, he may pick up 10 yards or throw a great, ball, but it's like, he shouldn't have to feel that much pressure within, a second. We don't want that. So for me, I think exactly. And the thing is, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they hold up great and the Bills aren't playing Von Miller and it looks fine. But I think
Dave, you're not going to like this answer. Line. You know how you help out a bad line? Screen passes. So let's maybe he does have less than -7 air yards. So screen passes and run games. So that's how you help a bad offensive line in protection. So okay, you want to finish off with questions? We got some questions.
Yeah, let's get to, if you guys have any questions, throw them in here. We'll stay as long as we need to. Is there any other that you starred, Ficky, that we haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah, I got him here. Yep.
All right, let's do it.
So Arvo asked a question earlier when we were talking about the running backs. Can we rank running backs by pass protection skills? You want to take a shot at that?
Yeah. If you want to go first, I'm going to bring up PFF here.
Okay.
I thought that would be a cool tool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
While you do that, I'll give. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think? You go.
I think so. It's probably going to go. It's hard to tell with the rookie Roschon, but if he's not, I'm going to put Foreman, Roschon, Herbert, who would be Ebner, maybe? Is that who's next? Or Homer? I don't even know. Maybe, I guess the top three, because I don't know about the four, how well they do on pass protection. But I would probably go Roschon first, Foreman first, Roschon, then Khalil.
Okay. Yeah, let me pull it up here. I have because I love PFF for a lot of different reasons. I think when it comes to, let me see here. Share this one instead. And I might be able to make it a little bit bigger so everyone can kind of see.
Cool.
How does it look, Ficky?
Yeah, that's
good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here, maybe I can't. Hold on. I think I can see the names. Foreman.
Yeah, I can see the numbers though. Yeah, I can read them.
Oh, you can?
You can see the numbers if you go back.
Yeah. So real quick, as far as PFF goes, they're not perfect. There's a lot of, things that I don't like, but there's also a lot of good things as far as like the trenches. Those grades I think are very valuable. So what we have here, let's see here. That might be a little bit better just for now. We have Nathan Peter. I don't know why he's on there, but as far as the running backs go, this is just the run blocking right now. So they take in a ton as far as like how they calculate this stuff. We can get into that too in a second. But as far as running backs go, run blocking this preseason, just 2023, which there's a decent amount of snaps. We can see how many they've had here. So Travis Homer, he's had 13. He's had 13. Roschon Johnson has 21. Khalil Herbert has only had 4. Now, is that because he's not getting as many snaps? Probably, but at the same time, it is what it is. We all know Herbert's kind of flaw here. Foreman, 7 snaps. So their grades are pretty interesting. Khalil Herbert has nothing. Not enough information, I guess, to go on. But Roschon Johnson, he's at 60, which is fair. You can see the yellow here. It's not bad. For a rookie, again, it is preseason, so it is vanilla, but 60 is pretty good. And that's one thing that he's been, pretty good on. And then pass blocking right here, he's even better. I mean, look at 72.5, which is very, very good. You have Foreman, who is also 79.7, higher than Roschon Johnson. So you see Herbert here is at 72.4, which, it is what it is in regards to pass blocking. But I think as far as ranking them, I think it's easy. I think it goes Roschon Johnson. I think he's already very, very good at it, and he hasn't been in the league very long. And then, honestly, I like Foreman. I think he's a solid dude. He's just a veteran. And then I think it goes Herbert. I like Homer, but he's a little bit smaller. I would have to look at who's bigger as far as Herbert and Homer. But I think you kind of pick your poison there. But all of them have been pretty solid. So pass protection, run blocking, it is what it is. But I don't think it's a great spot. I think Roschon Johnson week 8 might even be better, which is going to be a great resource, especially third down. He's a pretty good receiving back too. So, I mean, it's interesting. Hopefully, it's not something that we have to talk about because that would be, ideal.
Yeah, it means they're not doing their job. Right, because it's like linemen,
it's
right?
You don't want to talk about
it. Yeah, exactly. So
look at us. We are in sync. Yeah. So if we're not talking about this, yeah. And what's the next question?
I hope not. Okay, so Arvo's got another one, and then we have one after that. So Arvo had another one that says, "Is Chris Jones a good teacher / mentor?" I'm gonna jump in and say I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't. Could he? I mean, he's a vet, so he might. I haven't. How about this? We haven't heard reports that he's toxic. So
yeah.
But again, I don't have that information. I have no idea.
I think most players. I mean, he's well liked in the locker room. I know that. Like I've seen it. Like I think it was last year. Just some of the Chiefs are obviously they're a popular team. When you have the best quarterback in the NFL, you're going to get a lot of insight. You're going to see a lot of videos. And from everything I saw last year, again, I don't follow him in depthly, but he's a good dude. He's been in the league for quite a while. He's productive. He makes a lot of players around him better. I think as far as like, okay, how great is he? Is he a guy that's, hey, let's go out, take the line out for lunch? We don't know that. But at the end of the day, he's a pro, he's professional, and there has been no character issues. So is he going to give all his his secrets away and techniques and stuff? I don't know, but he's a good teammate in my opinion. And hopefully we have to talk about it more, once he comes to the Bears. It'll be fun.
Oh, that would be great. All right. Next question.
So
we got one from, I know that'd be crazy. Next question. We got one from Gillian. Excuse me. Chance we trade any player before Tuesday?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, no, actually, I'm going to say no, because we got to cut the roster down. I think that's what they're going to be working on predominantly is like, okay, hey, we have a bunch of guys there, 90 guys. We have to evaluate the tape. We have to, from tomorrow, they're going to go over the Bills game. They're going to get, work day and night over the next 48 hours to kind of finalize who, okay. And it's a tough decision. There's going to be coaches. There's going to be fighting for the guys that, hey, I want this guy here, and vice versa. And it's going to be a lot of emotions. I don't think a trade happens anytime now, but after the roster's set, absolutely. Yeah, I think there might be at least one. Might not be big, but I think there could be a returner. Again, might not be on the roster. That could be a very, very likely scenario. Good question. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. No, I agree completely with you. I don't even have anything to add. I think they got so much to handle with the cutting down the roster that I don't think a trade's happening. I think they're going to get the roster to where it is and then see where there's missing, holes on the roster. Sorry, in the depth chart. All right, last question. Odds we get Chris Jones. Let's say 0 out of 10. Odds we get Chris Jones.
Okay.
Where would you put
You go first.
I'm at a 4. I'm at a 4. I'll say 4. Yeah. What about you?
I honestly was thinking 4. So I'm not going to go 4. I am. I'm thinking 4. I don't think it's high. I think 40% is fair, but probably it's at 20. It's probably in that 20, 25%. Let's be realistic here, but we're both positive. So it's going to bump up a percentage or 2 or 10. And
I think you're right. It's more likely, like the easier way is more likely not to happen than it is. That's how we feel, right?
If Justin was the guy, Justin, again, we both are very confident in him. And I think it makes sense to even trade for him now if it's reasonable, if it's feasible. I think it makes sense, even if you have a rookie quarterback next year. But if Justin was the guy, if he showed more, and again, credit to him for what he worked with last year. They just didn't. They tore it down. They knew what they were doing. Obviously, one of the worst rosters in the NFL, if not the worst. So, but if Justin could just show a little bit more as a passer, it's like, okay, yeah, let's go get Taylor. Let's go get Chris Jones. You be a little bit more aggressive there. But I think that comes mid-season.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I want to confirm what we have is good, because if you think about if Mitch was that dude, that's a championship team. That defense is so good, and the offense was good enough. It was good enough. At least that's a very competitive team, right? Like, yeah. So it's someone mentioned it earlier that I have PTSD. You're absolutely right. I'm just like, Poles has come in here and said the right things and done the right things to follow up. Let's build through the draft. Like, let's not make those big risks that Ryan Pace would do until we feel more comfortable with what we have. I just don't see him going against that because he hasn't shown that to this point. Does that mean he won't trade for someone? No, we've seen trades. But I think it's all the trade so far and everything has been built around to confirm or deny if Fields is that guy. If he is, then I think the fun's going to happen. You thought this season was fun. If Fields is the guy, like, even if we don't like ball out, but like he looks good next season with all that cap, there's going to be frustrated players, a whole nother draft. I think that's where like the rumor mill is going to go crazy because we'll now be more in that, I'd say that competitive window where it's like, oh, maybe we are a couple players away from actually being like truly competitive.
Yeah, no, I agree with it, man. I don't know what I wish we're in a little bit better of a spot with Justin. Otherwise, we'd be like, okay, I'll be pounding the table. But now it's like, okay, I think we're good. I think we're enough to compete, especially look at last year's roster. We already just talked about it. But again, if they make the trade, great. Super Bowl, if not, Super Bowl still. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, I think that they're in a good spot, a healthy spot. And again, building through the draft is going to be what what is best for this team, and then when you get closer, when you are on that bubble, Super Bowl bubble, that's when you pull the trigger. And hopefully it's sooner rather than later. And hopefully it's with this quarterback, hopefully it's with Fields. So,
well, Dave, guess what? We're about to find out in a couple weeks because week 1 is right around the corner and football is back. So
I need that.
This is going to be a fun season. Oh, I need it. Inject it into my veins, please. Please. I've been waiting so long. And honestly, it's funny because doing this podcast with you, which has been great, it makes it worse because we talk about the Bears so much. And I'm just like, yo, can we get there? I can't wait to actually talk about like a real roster and players that are on the team. So, but it's all been fun. It's going to get even better. I love it. Bear down. We're here, baby.
Absolutely, man. Hey, did we ever get, I see a couple again. I know we want to get out of here. Foreman gets traded from Matthew Brown. Did we touch on that one?
Oh, sorry. No, he didn't get, he wouldn't get traded. I don't think so. He would get cut.
No.
Yeah. He's not.
I don't think anybody's going to be sending anything for him either.
No,
but very productive player.
No, I think that's why he should stay on the squad. I don't think he should go anywhere.
No, running back depth. You touched on. You nailed it perfectly. You need guys. People get hurt. It's the NFL. The running back, offensive line. There's some positions where it's like sometimes you're gonna have to go through injuries. And
we just talked about 3 quarterbacks. You know what I mean? If we're thinking 3 quarterbacks, I mean we're gonna need 5 running backs. Like it's a violent, wonderful sport, and people get injured. So the more the merrier, if possible. And I think that was a good sign. I think that's why they signed him.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. Again, at the end of the day, football's here. The season is finally here. It's been fun to talk about. Lots of rumors, but finally, it's here. So, Ficky, before we go, man, anything you want to say tomorrow?
Love y'all. Appreciate it. If you love the show, thumbs up, subscribe. We got a lot of great shit coming, more content. I'm just excited. It's a
lot of good guests coming. It's going to be a very fun season. I cannot wait. I think just the electric. I think Fields is going to be the guy. Yeah, absolutely.
It just feels. I haven't felt this way since like 2018, but I feel like this is even more because I believe in the quarterback even more, which is all I care about because we've never had one. So like I think that's. The energy's just really up. So I think, I'm just trying to ride that high. And that's why I'm so excited to get to week 1 because we haven't seen like a new GM, new coach in the culture, new players that actually look good that we've gotten from the draft that we like and have performed on the field. And then the quarterback's looking good. And then Kevin Warren, new stadium. It's just a lot of new, exciting, fun stuff. And so that's why I'm just like dying to get to the season. So that's my last rant on it. I know it's not going to get us there any faster, but I'm just happy y'all are with us along the ride and it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Well, hey, again, if you're still here, there's quite a few still here in here. If you can just like the video, I know we keep saying it, but it really does help. Just get the video out there. If you enjoy the content, tell a friend. The support, it really has been amazing. And so, again, you can check me out, Twitter, Dave_BFR. Also, all my articles, everything I write, sportsmockery.com. We are partnered with them. They're amazing. We love their platform. Go check out all their articles. Eric Lambert, everybody, great over there. Ficky, we know where to find you. It's Ficky Baby on Twitter, IG.
Everywhere.
Again, we'll be right back tomorrow. We will be recapping the Bears versus Bills. Whatever happens, it will be about 30 minutes after the game. We'll go live. Talk about it.
Depending on you'll see. It's a great point. Get those notification bell, turn that on. So then, as soon as we decide what time, you're notified immediately, so you don't miss the show and you can be in right from the beginning. So, but yeah, it should be like around 30 minutes after the game, which the game's at 12 Central, 1 Eastern, I think. So,
yeah,
something like that.
Either way, we'll be here. If you can't be with us live, that's okay too. We'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Apple, Spotify. Again, if you listen that way, you're listening right now, we appreciate you. Go ahead and leave a review. 5 stars. Obviously 5 stars. Leave a comment. It really does help that platform as well. I don't enjoy talking about it, but as far as just supporting us, letting us kind of continue to talk, Bears football, which is going to be exciting. Nonetheless, just go ahead and help out in any way you can. If you don't matter either. We just happy you're here. And we will talk with you guys. It's crazy to say. We'll talk with you tomorrow. So
we'll be right back. Peace.